Hello, everybody. It's Sylvia and Peter. We're back, and we have picked up another topic to talk about today regarding mental health and well-being in the workplace or life in general. And this time, what's also in the media an awful lot at the moment is multi-generations at work. How do we deal with it? How do you manage a workforce where you have up to 5 generations in the business at the same time? I'm not an employer, so I do not have hands-on experience, but I have been employed, and I have been the young generation, I have been the middle generation, I have actually also been the older generation. So that's just 3 of them. And it was a case of learning to adapt. And it's not always easy, is it?
No, it's not. And I think another thing that's cropped up, with the pandemic and post-pandemic is that, these multi-generations in the workplace, now with differing wants and needs and differing values and priorities. Goodness, where do we start on this? You have the younger generation with their needs and wants, the middle ones, the older ones. I think we've touched on this before. The older generations in the workplace may have some, medical needs. They may be caring for elderly parents. So it's not all about caring for children or childcare. Technology, workplace ethics. Goodness me, where do we start? And it can cause, as a leader or a manager of a team or senior leaders, how does each team leader or supervisor or manager, whichever phraseology you wish, manage this multi-generational workforce with all their different needs and wants and their priorities and their values? Because as you said earlier, someone that was in the middle of their working career now may have morphed into the older end of the working career and have their values and priorities have changed. It might be work, work, work. Now it's elderly parents, or it could be grandchildren they're looking after because their sons and daughters have got other priorities. Goodness, but I do think adaptability and that behaviour flexibility that we talk an awful lot about is a skill or capability that helps us as human beings through these times of change, of huge transformation and culture changes.
What we've been talking about so far is what a person needs and what a person wants. But there's also what a person can bring to the workforce.
Exactly.
And the older we get, the more experience we have. And I know my dad, when he was at a certain age where he worked back in Denmark, he got a new managing director, a young managing director who wanted a young, vibrant company that didn't fit the picture.
Yeah.
So he tried to be edged out. It didn't quite work, but certainly there was an attitude that the old people were just over the hill and past it.
Yeah.
And you can't have a workforce that is entirely young and inexperienced. You do need someone who's been around the block a couple of times. So it's about accepting and respecting the people you do have in the organization. And I think also to think strategically, what kind of experience do we need? Do we actually go and hire some old people, like me in the 60s, because of the experience they have? Or do we only want young ones? We have the whole technology question where some people think old people can't deal with technology and only young people can, which is also not true. And also, do you need technology in the work that you do or do you not? So we can't take that stereotype and just apply it like a blanket all over. We have to figure out, is it actually appropriate to think that way in this business?
It's interesting as well that during the pandemic and afterwards, a lot of 50 plus took the opportunity to exit the workforce. And a lot of people think, oh, brilliant, free up space for the younger generations coming through. But now a lot of organisations are realising, to your point about experience, that they've lost a huge chunk of experience values, ethics, experience, background, those huge training materials, really, rather than, the younger generation going off to various training sessions, they can get that while working alongside and learning from the older generations. You're getting that experience. So then there's been quite a push now for workforces, to actually get that 50 plus generation back in to the workplace, because I recognise the value that they bring to encourage, support, educate, nurture, share knowledge to that younger generation. Because where else is that younger generation going to get all those things from if they're not there?
Exactly. And the 50 plus generation, some of them for sure, are now looking to get back into the workforce because early retirement wasn't all it was promised to be. And boredom might set in, or lack of challenges, who knows. So we do need each other. And I think the bottom line is we should be able to listen to and learn from each other. Because the young generations do have an awful lot to add to the table.
Oh, definitely.
And why not take that into account? And at the same time, listen to what the old folks have to say, because they've been around, they've made some of the mistakes already, and they know what works and what doesn't. So if we could stop the ego trip where I'm better than you because I've been here longer, I don't need to listen to you, I've got no experience, all that nonsense that can come in when people are in an organization. If we could stop all of that and start to appreciate each other for what we can bring to the table, then magic would happen.
And I think also it is for the older generation too to develop that, adaptability, behaviour flexibility. Otherwise, how often have we heard, oh, we've always done it that way? Yes, that may have been an okay way, but there may be a better way. There may be an improved way. So as you just said, let's all work together rather than us and them, or however many generations people think there are. Let's, rather than pulling against each other, let's pull together, and we can all learn. The oldies can learn from the young ones and vice versa. And then from a leadership point of view, it makes it easier to a degree. From an organisational point of view, they thrive because you've got this multi-generational workforce that's all pulling in the same direction rather than against each other. But you say, I think it's just a case of listening and hearing and working with each other rather than pulling against each other.
Totally. And this is how we've always done it, is one of my pet hates.
Oh,
because it just screams, I'm not listening, I don't want to change, I don't want to do anything other than what I'm comfortable with. Yes. Yeah. What is difficult when you have a workplace where you can have up to, as the saying goes at the moment, up to 5 generations at the same time, is something like staff benefits. Because the late teens, early 20 years somethings do not have the same needs and wants like those who are in the 60s or those who are in the 40s. So something like those benefit schemes that a lot of companies offer, they have to be quite flexible to almost be a pick and mix counter, where you can pick what is relevant for you at whatever time of your life you are. So childcare wouldn't be appropriate for me, not least because I do not have children. So if that was part of the benefits package, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't really want it. Whereas others would be more than happy to have that included. So it's not just about how do we work together, it's also how do we look after each other in the workplace. And the more varied the workplace is in terms of its people, the more complicated it gets.
And I think also understanding, from each other, that someone's needs and wants and what they can bring may be what they do, how they are, however that may change. So, for example, someone who's working in the workplace then has childcare stuff come along, or have a diagnosis of their child that needs additional care, or have parents that are diagnosed with dementia, then suddenly their whole world changes, and what they may need and want and what they can bring is different, because as we say so many times, behind every face there is a story, and it's having those conversations. And I think, as we said before, having that compassion and kindness, that everyone will be wanting something different, everyone will bring something different, and that phrase, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and understanding that people will change, and what they can bring will change.
I know there is ageism out there, which does not favor the older population at work, but it also does not favor the younger population. I was the young generation once, and I found it incredibly difficult to break into the workplace. Nobody wanted me. It wasn't because they didn't want me, but they didn't want people without experience. So it was yes, we want a 20-year-old with just as many years experience in this particular specialized field, and employers couldn't get that. So I felt very sort of excluded from the workforce to begin with, and then by some magic somehow you get your foot in the door, and then you can start to go from there. And then I also know from my dad and other people how when you get towards the end of your career, that somebody wants to really get rid of you quick because you're too old, you're too expensive, and we would rather have young ones and more vibrant and that sort of thing. So I think what certainly I would like to hear from those watching is, what are your experiences? What are your solutions to dealing with a workplace that has multiple generations in it? What works, what doesn't? That would be interesting to hear.
And what do they do to accommodate all the generations? Yeah, that'd be really good.
We can't please everybody. We know it's going to be difficult, but at least we can make a good go at it. Yeah. So thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing what you think. See you later. Take care.
Bye-bye.